All right. Good morning, everybody. Hi, how are you? Our apologies for the delay. We just had a few minor technical issues, but everything is brilliant now. So welcome to our Screen Survival webinar. My name is Monica Davidson, and I will be giving you a fairly extensive tour of all of the different parameters and supports and ideas that are available to you in this complex time. Before we go any further, of course, I would like to acknowledge the Gadigal people who are the original custodians of the land that I'm on at the moment here in Sydney. I live and work on Gadigal land, and I want to acknowledge the ongoing connection to country, community and culture to this place that we now call Sydney. I'd also like to pay my respects to any Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people who are joining us today, in particular any elders who are here. Now, in a moment, I'm going to introduce Amelia from Screen New South Wales. This webinar is brought to you today by Screen New South Wales. But before we do that, I just want to introduce Carolyn, who is here as one of our Auslan interpreters. We will also be joined by Sean throughout the presentation. Can anybody please tell me if they're having any issues with the sound? If you just pop it into the chat. Wendy is in there and she will be able to help you to navigate any issues. I can see, okay, I can see from the chat that it's been fixed. And if we have any people joining us today who have any visual impairment, I'd like to describe what I look like. So I have fair skin, blue eyes, dark brown hair. I am in middle age. That's enough. That's all you need in terms of what I look like. And I'm sitting in a room with some books behind me. On the screen, we are joined by Carolyn, our Auslan interpreter, and I will also be going through a slideshow, which I will describe as we go. Now, we do have a little bit of housekeeping and things that need to be addressed. So I'm now going to turn off the presentation for a moment, so that I can invite Amelia onto the screen to say a few words about Screen New South Wales, introduce herself and talk a little bit about what's happening in our screen sector in this state. Give me one moment while I invite her on screen, and hopefully we will see her shortly. In the meantime, I'm just going to go through a few little bits of housekeeping. So Wendy is joining us, as I mentioned, from Creative Plus Business. She's in the chat to help share resources and to help you with any troubleshooting that you might have. We have discovered that this platform prefers Chrome. So if you're having struggles with Safari or Microsoft Internet Explorer, you might want to try Chrome. I'm having a little bit, here we go, Amelia's on board, fantastic. We should see Amelia shortly and hopefully she'll be able to chat to us. If you have any questions throughout the presentation, then just put them into the Ask a Question box below. I don't tend to pay very much attention to the chat because that's a chance for you to talk to each other. But if you want to ask me a question or get my attention in some way, ask a question down below is the best place to put that and to ask me something. We have Amelia. Hello, Amelia.
Good morning, everybody. Sorry to interrupt with my face popping up on the screen.
No, it's a pleasure to have you. I'm just going to throw over to you now so you can tell everybody a little bit more about these webinars and what Screen New South Wales was up for.
First of all, I'd also like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land that we're meeting on today and pay my respects to the elders past, present and future, as well as extend my respects to any Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders who are joining the webinar today. My name is Amelia Carew-Reid. I'm one of the managers of the Screen Industry and Audience Development Program at Screen New South Wales. We're really, really thrilled to partner with Creative Plus Business to present today's webinar, Screen Survival, with the fabulous Monica Davidson. This is the first in a series of ongoing webinar offerings for the screen sector, presented in partnership with Screen New South Wales. Next week, we have Ian Murray, who is the CEO of 113 Partners Consulting, and he'll be presenting Cash Flow Forecasting 101. Ian's designed this webinar to help screen businesses secure their health, including building knowledge of future cash flow and which allows people to make informed decisions early. Ian's got over 20 years experience either running creative businesses or as a strategic advisor for some of Australia's most cutting edge creative businesses. So he's got some great insights and a wealth of on-the-ground experience to share through his webinar. Links to Ian's webinar can be found on the Screen New South Wales homepage, and you can also join our e-news for all the latest Screen New South Wales updates. I also wanted to mention that our screen investment managers are also offering their services online. They're doing weekly virtual meetings, so you can get first-hand advice about projects and development and discuss pathways to finance and market. Again, those links are on our website, and you can always contact staff at Screen New South Wales to get further information. I think that's about it from me. I'll hand you back to Monica. Thanks, Monica, and thanks, everyone. Bye.
No, it's okay. I had my microphone off. It was my fault. Thanks, Amelia, for everything. Let me just take us back to my other screen and I'll be right with you. So a little bit more housekeeping, just to ensure that we're all on the same page. I talked about the chat. I talked about the question. This webinar recording will be available afterwards with a record of the chat and the questions. So if for some reason you have to leave, you can always come back to it later and watch it again. It's quite a long session today, so we will have 2 short breaks at about the half an hour, 45-minute time, just so we can, get a cup of tea, have a bathroom break, things we need to do, digest all the information I'm going to be sharing with you. We also have a Dropbox folder full of extra resources and information, and the link for that is below. There's a green button below me that says access the survival Dropbox here. If you're having any issues with any kind of access at all, you can email us. I'm just putting our email address into the, putting our email address into the chat, hello@creativeplusbusiness, which I've spelled incorrectly. Wendy, can you please put hello? Can you please put our email address into the chat? hello@creativeplusbusiness.com is our email address, and you can email us if you're having any issues. And I think that's it in terms of housekeeping. I want to introduce myself. My name is Monica Davidson, and I do know quite a lot of you already. Hello. I am a screen practitioner, and I have been for an extremely long time, over 30 years. I don't want to talk about it. And I am joining you today in part because of my history as a screen practitioner. And so my main area of practice has been in, thank you, Wendy. My main area of practice has been in documentary filmmaking. I have been a freelance filmmaker, and I also ran a production company called Two Shot Media for about 20 years. So I feel like I'm an old hand at all of this, but that's not just the reason why I'm joining you today. I'm also joining you today because I'm now the director of an organisation called Creative Plus Business, and we are a social enterprise dedicated to supporting the education of creative practitioners. in whatever format that takes, around the areas of small business, finances, and marketing, all the sexy things. So we have lots of webinars, lots of workshops, lots of resources available to you, and there will be links throughout this presentation to a number of different resources we have available for you. One of them that I want to just give you some quick information about, and I promise the housekeeping will finish shortly, is called Business Connect. Now, I'm just going to make this screen a little bit bigger so you can all see it. You will still be able to see me and Carolyn down at the bottom there. So this is a New South Wales funded program for small businesses, and we are the creative industries specialists for the state. Wendy is about to put the link for this into the chat over on the right-hand side. And we are able, I'm very happy to report, we are able to provide you with 4 hours of completely free business advice, mentoring, and support as part of the Business Connect process. It's completely funded by New South Wales Government, and there's no catch. You are all entitled to 4 hours of free support, even if you've accessed the service before. In another piece of good news, I'm happy to report that our funding has been extended until June 2021. So there's no rush, but if you feel that you'd like to talk to someone from creative industries about how to manage your business during this difficult time, that's exactly what Business Connect is for, and we would love to have you join us as a client. Now, the final thing, that's the Dropbox link, which you can also access below. That Dropbox will also be live for the length of time that this webinar is live, so you can access it anytime. Now, I would love to get a little bit of an idea of who you all are. So I can see there's lots of people joining us. Why don't you pop into the chat, tell us, well, we can see your names, but why don't you introduce yourself, tell us your name, tell us where you're based. If you want to, you can tell us the organisation that you're from or whether you're freelance. And, you know, if you feel like it, why don't you tell us what your favourite disaster movie is? Because this really does feel like the time for disaster movies. So why don't you throw that in the chat so we can all get a chance to see who's here and a chance to say hello to each other. Once again, reminding you that you can ask me any questions down below, and that should be totally fine. All right, now nobody's introduced themselves yet, so I'm a little bit nervous. Can someone please introduce themselves in the chat so I can make sure it's working? Okay, there must be someone. I think we just have to wait, unless you've all vanished, which I hope is not the case. All right, while I'm waiting, oh, Ben, hi. Okay, fantastic. Look at you all. Hello. Okay, I had no reason to fear. Everybody's here. I'm so pleased. All right, great. Please keep introducing yourselves in the chat. I am going to continue on with my presentation. Hi, everyone. Hi, Dev. Oh, hi, Tracy. Lovely to see a few familiar names there. Now, I am going to just give you a quick run through of some of the things we're going to be talking about today. You can see on the slide, we're going to be talking about managing your health, managing your financials, talking about staff and freelancers. We're going to talk more about marketing, making your own work, diversifying your income, and trying to stay connected. So like I said earlier, there's an enormous amount of information here. We'll just take our time with it, take some breaks, and just work our way through it. Like I said, if you have to leave, you'll be able to access the recording later. I do want to just make one of many disclaimers. I don't have all of the answers. Unfortunately, nobody has all of the answers at this point in time. And I really appreciate the fact that a lot of you are probably experiencing trauma or distress about what's happening at the moment and what's happening in particular for you. I will be addressing some of those resources, and I will do my best to share with you the most up-to-date information that I have, but I just want everybody to understand, and I'm sure you do, that we are all still learning how to make this new world work. So we are doing our best. Let's hang in there, ready to go. Oh, hi, we've got Sean joining us. So we're going to say goodbye to Carolyn for a minute. Hi, Sean. All right, now, I want to just go through how I've decided to structure this presentation. And on the slide, you can see a link to an article that was written by my pal, David Sharp. Wendy will pop a link to the article in the chat in a moment. This was a fantastic article that David wrote about a month ago, so reasonably early. And he really did break down some of the ways in which the coronavirus was going to impact our creative industries, and it was a great article. I've kind of structured this presentation in a similar way. I've decided to focus on urgency and capacity. So the 10 points that I'm going to go through are really my personal definition of urgency, and I'm going to go through each one in order because it's going to be incredibly important to make sure that you are okay and that you have the capacity to move forward from this point. So that's why I'm going to start with managing and maintaining your health. In the beginning, of course, I'm talking about your physical health. So it's important to make sure that you are staying well inside your physical self, that you are staying home, and that you are protecting yourself as best you can. And I think we've all got that message by now. I sincerely hope so. Although the woman that bumped up against me in Woolworths clearly has not got that message, and she's lucky she didn't get a sharp word from me. I kept myself nice. If you are having any health issues whatsoever, physical health issues, or if you're uncertain about anything at the moment, I'm sharing a slide with you which has the help number on it. I'm going to make that slide a little bit larger so you can see the details. Wendy will also be sharing those details. The number is 1-800-020-080, and that's the number for the National Coronavirus Helpline if you need any kind of information or support whatsoever in terms of the details, the precautions, and so on. And please make sure you're keeping yourself well, not only physically well, but also emotionally well. Now sharing another slide with you, which is the wellbeing page from our website, creativeplusbusiness.com. In our resources section, we have a wellbeing page, and we've listed there all of the hotlines and services that we could find at the moment that are available for people who require that support. And I think this is a really important point for us to discuss right now. Of course, I'm not a psychologist. I'm not suggesting in any way that people who are working in our environment can support you with your mental well-being, but it's incredibly important as creative practitioners or as the leaders of creative organizations to understand and respect the connection between mental and emotional well-being and the ability to be creative. And I'm not just talking about creative in the arts sense. I'm talking about creativity in the broader sense of being able to solve problems and think creatively about how to overcome challenges. If your mental well-being is suffering at the moment and you are then also struggling to come to terms with what's happening and try all these new things, please be kind to yourselves. I've noticed a lot in the last month that quite a lot of our clients in our advisory sessions have been expressing anxiety about the fact that they're not taking full advantage of this time. They feel like they need to be creative and they need to be pushing themselves and learning new things and making new work, slow down. You don't need to be doing all of those things. You can just rest for now and try and get strong and rebuild yourself, because the word I want you to always be thinking about is capacity. Monitoring your own capacity and making sure that you are well enough to take the next steps is critically important. So, like I said, although I'm not a psychologist, oh God, can you imagine? This is a really important part of it. If you feel that you need this kind of help, then please go and find it. Please go and ask for it. Remember as well, you can ask me any questions you want to down the bottom. We are monitoring the questions all the time. The next step is to look at your short-term financial survival. So I've got 2 points about your finances. This first one is about the immediate situation in terms of your finances, and then I'm going to look at some more complex strategies to think about. So we need to make sure that your physical health is okay, your mental health is okay. Now we're looking at your immediate financial health. These are short-term measures, and I'm just going to go through a few of them with you. But a word of caution, another disclaimer, I am not a financial advisor. In fact, nobody at Creative Plus Business is a financial advisor. We have people that we can refer you to, but it's important to remember that everything I'm sharing with you is a suggestion only. Do you like that disclaimer? It's important to make sure that you get the right advice from the right people. I'm just going to be sharing some resources with you and some ideas. So the first idea, the first urgent thing that I would like to suggest is doing a cash flow projection. And there's more information about cash flow projection in our Dropbox folder. I tell you, exciting stuff. It's become really apparent this week that creative professionals who have their finances in order are going to be able to maximise the amount of support they can get from the various government bodies, and I want to talk about that in a moment. But now is the time to simply look into the future and project how much money you have coming in and what your expenses are going to be. When I talk about money coming in, of course, the most important thing to do right now is ensure that any money that's coming is definitely coming. Making sure that you have issued invoices, that you have solid contracts, and that you can access whatever income possible in the near future. That's particularly important for those of you who are working in post-production. Post-production has not been as adversely affected right at this moment compared to other kinds of production, but the knock-on effect is coming, and I know that you're aware of that. So this is about ensuring that being very clear with yourselves about what's coming and being realistic with yourselves. I'm sorry if that sounds condescending, but this is not the time for magical thinking. This is the time for hard and fast cash flow projections. Even if it's just worked out on a bit of paper, it's a good start. We are going to talk about diversifying your income shortly, but I'm now suggesting alternative income. Think about every different place where you could possibly make or ask for money. Now is not the time to feel ashamed if you need to be reliant on a partner or talk to your parents or change your CV in order to make you able to get different kinds of work. These are all short-term measures. None of these mean that you're going to have to completely kill off your screen career, but this is just about surviving. I will talk more about diversity in a moment. Oops. Next thing we, of course, need to talk about is Centrelink and Grants. And I'm nervous about this because I know there are going to be lots of questions. And, of course, ask them in the question box. I will do my best. Riona has just mentioned that she's going to share within the sector. That's my pleasure, Riona. We are going to try and make all of these resources as accessible as possible. If you are joining us with a vision impairment, please email us at hello@creativeplusbusiness.com and we will be able to send you accessible versions of all of the documents that we've mentioned and an accessible version of the links that I've been mentioning as well. So please just email us. First thing I want to talk about in terms of Centrelink is Job Seeker. Oh, I just heard the collective groan of everybody watching the webinar right now, and rightly so. So Job Seeker payment link is there on the screen, and we will also be popping it into the chat. If you are aged between 22 and 68, then you need to find out if you qualify for Job Seeker payment. I know there are a large number of you that may not. I'm happy to report that each day the legislations and rules are changing for each of these things, so it's still worthwhile going and looking at Job Seeker payment to see if you are eligible. Some people have already received their first Job Seeker payment, and it was less than they were expecting because they registered prior to the announcement about the increase. If that's you, go back to Centrelink and re-register or change your registration. I know that's a nightmare proposition, but it's really important to take advantage of these supports while they are available, because I'm not sure how long they will be available. Job Seeker is replacing New Start, so there will always be some capacity within our social services to be able to support you, whether it's Job Seeker or New Start or some other allowance that they come up with. But again, as an individual, it's important to go and seek that out. And if you have any questions, do please ask me. The question that everybody's always asking about, of course, is Job Keeper. Job Keeper is now on the screen as well. The Job Keeper payment is available in a number of different ways. It's available for those of you who have employees. If you have been paying your staff and yourself since the 30th of March, you are likely to be able to access Job Keeper payment in its general form, and the link for that has now been put on the page. Just do a Google search for ATO Job Keeper payment if you are uncertain of where to find it. I know a lot of you are also interested in the Job Keeper payment for sole traders, which I'll get to in a moment. One of the distressing aspects of Job Keeper that was announced earlier this week or became visible this week was the partnership issue. I know I've been contacted by a number of our clients who are in partnerships, not sole traders and not proprietary limited companies. If you are in a partnership at the moment, the Job Keeper payment will only go to one person in the partnership. The other people in the partnership will either have to go and find out if they can get Job Seeker, or might be forced to apply for Job Keeper as a sole trader. It's caused a huge ruckus because, of course, there are lots of partnerships where only one partner receiving payments is going to be completely impossible. So do stay tuned for more developments on that. I'm just reporting back to you what's available right now. On the screen now, I've also given you the slide for the sole traders and other entities. So if you are a sole trader, you are able to apply for Job Keeper as well. Now, one second. Just today, some new changes were released to make accessibility for Job Keeper a little bit easier, specifically designed for those of you who have not been in business for 12 months or who have had really variable income. So there's an alternative test for Job Keeper that was just announced last night. Consequently, I don't have a huge amount of information about it, I'm afraid, but please go and search for alternative tests for Job Keeper, and that might give you the information that you need. So, oops, 1 second. Just getting myself organized here. Okay. Now, I haven't been able to give you absolutely every grant and kind of funding that is available at the moment. Of course, that would be basically impossible because more and more things are being released all the time. I saw the ABC release some guidelines yesterday about some special funding that they have. So it's popping up all over the place. But this is one that I wanted to highlight with you that has been put in place by the New South Wales government. It doesn't apply to a lot of you. It's a small business grant, which is only available to people, to businesses who have a turnover of $75,000 or more and at least one employee. So those of you who are freelancers, the sole traders will not apply. But this is a grant of up to $10,000 for expenses. Part of the reason why I wanted to mention it is not just because it's going to apply for some of you, but it's a quick response grant, and when they say quick, they mean it. It's modelled on the bushfire quick response grant. So I have a number of clients who applied for it as soon as it was released, and the money is in their bank already. So if you are able to apply for it, please do. One more resource that I want to share with you. Oftentimes we only think about public money or support that's available within our own sector, in the screen sector or the creative industries sector, but I want you to think about broadening your horizons. I've shared with you on the screen grants.gov.au, which is the federal government grant platform. There are also state grants, local government grants. There's more and more money being released all the time. So make sure when you're looking around for possible financial support that you broaden your horizons as much as possible when it comes to that. I can't see any questions at the moment, so I'm going to keep on going. Remember, you can ask me questions down below, and I will do my best to stop and answer you. The next thing I want to talk about is accessing your superannuation, or more particularly, okay, 1 second, we just need to swap over. So hold on 1 second. I'm just going to swap you over, Sean. Okay. Oh. Okay, I don't know why I can't get Carolyn back up again. This is a bit of a problem. Okay, Carolyn, I'm going to just close your video and then reopen it again. We shall see if that works. Thanks everybody for being patient with our technical issues. And we will do our best, won't we? Okay, now where is Carolyn? There she is. Just getting her back on screen again now. She should be with us shortly. Thanks for staying with us, Sean, while we keep going. Okay. She comes. Hopefully we'll see her momentarily. While we're waiting for her, I just want to remind you once again that I am not a financial advisor. So when it comes to withdrawing your superannuation, please make sure you go and do as much research as you can about how to do that and what that looks like, because I really feel very uncomfortable giving you advice. Let me just see what's happened to Carolyn. Where is she? She's coming. Great. But I've given you the information there about superannuation, and Wendy will be popping it up for us in a moment. So you can go and find out for yourselves whether or not that's the right thing for you to do. I'm sorry for being vague, but I'm not a financial advisor, so I feel uncomfortable about sharing that with you. Okay, we're still waiting for Carolyn. She's coming shortly, I hope. Okay, I also want to just remind you that you may have the capacity to, for short-term survival, pause your mortgage or your rent. I know that now that's actually been released as an idea into the world, that it's not as fantastic as we thought it was going to be, but I still wanted to just point out that it's possible. And I also want to just share with you some information from the Tenants Union about your residential rent. So I've shared a link with you there from the Tenants Union about renting and what the situation is for all of you in that regard. The most important thing at this point, yes, Riona, thank you for mentioning that. Yeah, there can be some really unpleasant tax implications and some other really problematic issues with deferring rent and mortgages. So it's not the magical answer that we thought it was going to be. The really important thing about all of these is that if you can afford it, please do talk to your accountant. I understand. Yes, she is. Hi, Carolyn. How are you? All right, there we go. Oh, we did it. Fantastic. I am actually going to take a break in a moment, though. So, Carolyn, you'll only be joining us for a minute. So I understand that a lot of you can't afford to have an accountant, and obviously that's really problematic. But if you can afford an accountant, please make sure that you talk to one that specialises in creative industry. If you don't have an accountant that specialises in creative industry, we have found some of them for you, and we refer to them as the groovy accountants. So Wendy will share the link with you in the chat now. Creative Plus Business Groovy Accountants, if you want to do a Google search, and you should find them pretty quickly. There is still an idea out there, I think, which is understandable, to choose an accountant that is closely located to you in terms of geography or is cheap. The cheap I totally get. The closeness I don't necessarily get, because you're really not going to be hanging out much at the moment, are you? But it's more important than ever to make sure that you find accountants that are specialists in the screen industry or the broader creative industries, because they are going to understand your specific needs and the particular quirks of your working arrangements. So please do go and find them. And if you have any that you are using, people who've joined us, if you've got any accountants that you like, that you've found to be helpful, please do pop them in the chat, because we'd love to find out more about them and share those tips with other people. Now, we are up to step 3, which is financial housekeeping time, but it is also short break time. So we're going to take a 5-minute break just so everybody can go and refresh themselves. I need to go and top up my cup of tea. So 5 minutes only, and we will be back shortly. I will see you back in a minute. Everybody, we are back. I'm just going to invite Carolyn to come back and join us, if I can. Okay, there she is. Hi, Carolyn. All right, we can do this. We've got it. We've got this. No, I'm not going to jinx it. All right. Hopefully you're all back joining us again. If you are back, can you please say hi in the chat just so we know you're here? We will be having another very short break as we keep going. It's just important to make sure that we get a chance to digest all of this information, because there's a lot here. Okay. All right. Now, I finished off. Hello, Wendy. Hello, Ben. Hello, everybody. How exciting. All right, step number 3. Oh, I just wanted to point out that in the Dropbox, there is also a list of some of the quick links that are available to government support for businesses. Some of those links may have changed. Everything is changing really quickly, so I know you'll be patient with us if that's not entirely up to date. But of course, we've given you lots of resources to keep you moving. Step number 3 is to talk about getting your financial housekeeping organised. Now is the perfect time to get your financial house in order. Yes, I know it's scary and depressing, but it's really important. It's something that has actually always been important. But this week, as I mentioned, it's become even more apparent that we need to be constantly keeping our financial situation up to date. And this is not designed to make you feel bad, but the vast majority of creative professionals that we work with, and it was certainly true for me when I was freelancing, I didn't pay a huge amount of attention to my current finances, apart from, do I have money in the bank? When it came to record keeping and reporting, most people that we work with have got the past sorted out. Usually they feel like they're doing pretty well if they've done their taxes for the last financial year. But in terms of ongoing record keeping, it isn't necessarily a high priority. With JobKeeper being announced this week, and to an extent JobSeeker, it became immediately apparent that not only do you have to have the past organised and sorted out, you also have to have your current financial situation transparently sorted out. And I mean transparently, for reasons that I'll get to in a minute. So today, this section might be a little bit brutal, but I just need to go through it all with you step by step. So the first thing is that you need to review your budgets. I know a lot of you are doing that already. My apologies if this is condescending. It's not what I mean. But this has become the opportunity, whether you need to or whether you think it's just a good idea, to go through all of your budgets, including your business budgets and your personal budgets, to make sure that you can trim as much fat as possible. And you really need to do that because it's often quite surprising how much money we spend on incidental things that we just don't notice. And that's true for both your personal life and your business life. We review our financial situation here at Creative Plus Business once a month. I also do that at home, and it's really extraordinary how many little bits of money you can spend without really noticing them. Well, of course, now is the time to notice them, particularly for those of you who are experiencing financial distress. Even if you're not, even if you're okay for now, I still think it's a good idea to review your budgets, because we have no idea what's coming. And in fact, anybody that tells you that they can predict what's going to happen in the next 6 months is absolutely full of it. We have no idea. So prepare yourself for whatever could possibly be coming. That includes reviewing your budgets. It also includes issuing all your invoices. I know some of you are probably thinking, who wouldn't? But it happens sometimes if you've had a particularly busy period, or if you're just a little bit relaxed in your financial housekeeping, it's possible you haven't issued all of your invoices. So make sure that you do, with extremely clear payment terms. Don't just write something vague on the invoice like, this invoice is due in 14 days. Please ensure with every single invoice that you send that a very clearly identified due date is on there so people know when to pay. You are allowed to be insistent about that. You always have been, but now is particularly the time. It's also the time for you to review any overdue payments. And again, this week I've spoken to a lot of clients who are owed money due to that, their client being in kind of financial hardship or whatever might be going on. So my first suggestion would be, if you have not been paid, and you should have been, contact that client directly, either via email or over the phone, just to have a friendly but firm conversation about what's actually happened to that money. Reissue the invoice with either the original date and an overdue marking on it, or after conversation with the client, you might want to change the due date to be more possible for them. This is not the time to start creating bad relationships. So your clients might have specific funding issues, and it's really much more sensible at this point to try and create a relationship where you're going to be able to get paid, rather than coming in heavy with lawyers and letters of demand straight away. Having said that, if you need to go heavy, if you need to get legal support, or if you need to create a letter of demand, then the Arts Law Centre of Australia have got a fantastic debt recovery letter of demand, which you can see on screen at the moment. It's also in the Dropbox, and I believe Wendy's going to pop it up into the chat for me. There it is. Thanks, Wendy. Arts Law Centre of Australia is also going strong. And so if you are having any legal issues around these things and you're not financially able to speak to a lawyer, please do contact Arts Law. Just be patient. They are getting a lot of inquiries, but they are still open. As I mentioned earlier, it's a really good time for you to just keep in communication with your clients, with anybody that you can think of who needs to be involved in the conversation with you. And really, this is particularly important for those of you who are feeling desperate and frightened about what's going on right now. But it's a totally understandable response, but it's not necessarily going to be helpful in terms of continuing long-term relationships with your clients, because you want to make sure you can survive the next 3, 6, 9 months, and you want to make sure that those good relationships continue afterwards. So talk to your clients. Make sure that you're in constant communication with them about what's going on. Do they need your help? Do they need you to be a little bit more lenient on your invoicing? Not so that it's going to adversely affect you, obviously, but just to make sure that you can keep those relationships going. I want to also just remind you that I am not a financial advisor, but it might be necessary for you to get a small overdraft on a business account or go into some kind of healthy debt to help you around these issues at the moment. By healthy debt, I mean trying to organise one of the government-supported loan programs or talking to your bank about a business loan with a reasonable rate of interest. Please try not to go to credit cards as your answer to this problem. Again, I've spoken to a number of clients in the last couple of weeks who have reassured me with great confidence that everything will be fine because they'll just put all of their expenses on their credit card and then it'll be sweet. I'm not a financial advisor, but it doesn't sound like a very good idea to me. So please get some advice about this one from your bank or do some more research, but it is possible. I'd also suggest that you renegotiate all of the terms for basically everything that you need to spend money on. So earlier I mentioned trimming the fat out of your budgets. This is now about looking at the expenses that you need to continue to spend and seeing if you can renegotiate anything and everything from your mortgage or your rent to your telephone bill to your broadband, whatever it might be, for your business, for your freelance life, for your personal life. Literally go through every single line of your budget, every single line of your expenses, and see if there's some more room to move in terms of renegotiating terms about everything. Even if it only saves you $10 or $20 a week, that's going to be worthwhile. And make sure you stay up to date because there are changes constantly. Almost every day we're still seeing changes to all of these different laws and regulations and possible supports. So it's really on you to make sure you stay up to date. It is also cloud accounting time. We're still talking to a lot of practitioners who have avoided cloud accounting, and I understand why. But now is the time to start accessing these sorts of services. Cloud accounting is a process that allows you to track your expenses and issue invoices and easily create reports through software or an app. And that app links to your bank account, which makes this whole process much easier and means you don't have to do constant manual reporting. You can actually have some of that automated for you. Most people are aware of some of the larger cloud accounting softwares available like MYOB or Xero, but I wanted to just call your attention to 2 others that a lot of people are not aware of. And again, this is absolutely vital when it comes to job seeker and job keeper. You need to have your current financial situation up to date, and in particular, your current financial situation and the reporting that you are doing needs to match your bank account, whether that's your personal bank account or your business bank account. The Australian Taxation Office has had the ability for about 12 years to access the details of your bank accounts without requiring your permission. So if you are reporting on what's happening in your bank account and that is incorrect, it is going to be a much longer process for you to be able to prove that you deserve the payments that are available to you. And I don't mean to scare you, but I do. I'm scaring you on purpose because this is scary. So I'm scaring you into action. I know it's not very kind. The two that I wanted to talk about, the first one is a platform called Wave. Now, Wave is free, which is why I'm mentioning it, but it does have some limitations due to the fact that it's free. It is a company based in North America, and so although they can help you, it can help you to track your expenses and issue invoices, it won't link to your bank account, which makes its usefulness a little bit more limited. They also can't necessarily help you with business activity statements, but you can manually enter some of the information and generate reports or issue invoices. And I just wanted to mention it, waveapps.com, in case you've never tried cloud accounting before and you just want to try it. Well, it's free, so you can give it a go. And Wendy has popped the link up into the chat for you. The one that we usually recommend, and I need to be transparent with you, we do not get any kind of kickback from this, but the one that we usually recommend is a platform called Rounded, rounded.com.au. Rounded is an Australian cloud accounting system, and they do cost money. Their starter price is $15 a month. Their pro price is $20 a month. But they can link to your bank account. They can help you to migrate your information from other platforms or from spreadsheets. And because we have a relationship with them, if you can click on the link in the chat or email us for more information, we can send you a link that will allow you to access Rounded for free for a month before you have to pay the $15, just to help you get some idea of whether or not it's going to be right for you. And I do recommend that because really your ability to quickly generate accurate reports about your current financial state, boring though that is super important at the moment. So now I'm just going to check whether or not I've got any questions. And I have. Dev says, hi Dev, how are you, Dal? Dev says, pausing insurances like public liability equipment and licenses. Yes, especially if these are direct debit. So Dev, I'm assuming that you've been able to do that. Really do go and talk to your insurance providers and to your licensing providers, to whatever that might be, whether that's, as you say, computer programs, music, image library. I think it's really important to just go line by line through absolutely everything and ensure that you're getting the best deal that you can. And if you're not particularly good at haggling, then I recommend finding somebody else who can haggle for you, because the ability to haggle is crucially important in this particular regard. Final step number 4, and again, if you have any questions, please ask me. This is an incredibly stressful topic that we need to really talk about, but for those of you who have a larger team or who work with other freelancers, then of course, step number 4 for screen survival is to make sure you are managing your team as effectively as possible. And we are all having to have some pretty difficult and frank conversations with the people that we work with and the people that work for us about what's possible at the moment. I would suggest sharing this webinar with those people, particularly if they're fellow freelancers, so they can watch this and maybe get some tips for themselves. But my recommendation, bottom line, it's best to have these conversations with people sooner rather than later. If you can't afford to keep them, or if it looks like that's going to be difficult for you, or you have no choice. I'm sure most of you in that situation have already had those conversations, but it's better just to rip off the Band-Aid and make it happen, unfortunately. All I can do at this point is just share some resources with you. And again, Wendy's going to put these in the chat for you. They'll also be available on a resource that we can send to you afterwards. The first one is the Fair Work Ombudsman. It has a page on coronavirus and the Australian workplace laws, just so you can understand what the legal situation is. And also for those of you who are employees, I do recommend that you have a look at these websites as well to see what you're entitled to, because, oh my God, what a shock. Turns out some employers are being absolute bastards about some of these different requirements. Who knew that would happen? So it's important to make sure you are as educated as possible. Safe Work Australia also has a page dedicated to this, advice for employers about how to create safe working environments, which may not be that relevant for all of you, but it's still worth having a look at. And the Department of Health also has a lot of download publications that you can go and access to get more information about all of those things. And of course, I would refer you back to the earlier comments that I made about JobKeeper. Some of you might be eligible for that. Some of you might be eligible for the New South Wales Small Business Grant for $10,000 as well. Plus, there are a range of other funds out there. But I know that the majority of people working in the screen industry are not employing businesses. They are employees or freelancers and sole traders. So I understand that's not the case for all of you. I just wanted to make a quick mention of it. Now, it is really important that I make sure I have a little check-in with all of you. If you are not feeling okay, if you feel that you need to take care of your physical or mental health, or if your financial situation is really stressful and distressing for you at the moment, then I just need to let you know the remaining tips are for those of you who have the capacity to be able to continue on. I don't want you to feel overloaded by all these suggestions if you're really struggling. The three most important things to be aware of at any time are your physical health, your mental well-being, and your financial safety. The rest of the presentation is for those of you who are feeling like you can keep going, like you have sorted yourselves out in terms of those three health checks and you're ready to keep going. I just wanted to make sure that you're all taking care of yourselves. Remember, you only have to try things that you have the capacity for. If you don't have the capacity for them, please practice some self-kindness and be nice to yourselves and just take the time that you need. But I will assume that we are all okay. So let's go on to step 5, which is to make time for marketing. And remember, if you have any questions, please pop them in the box below so I can see them. I know we've all had the experience of wanting to just go back to bed and hide under the covers for the next 6 months. I certainly have felt that way on occasion, and I have indulged my desire to have a bit of a sook every now and then, but it's time. This is now the time to also focus on building ourselves as professionals, and not only building ourselves, but also working together to continue to build our industry if you have the capacity for it. It might sound counterintuitive, but historically, when we've had previous times of crisis, like the GFC and like the recession from the early 90s, both of which I was a part of because I am 150 years old. Those businesses that remained as active as possible and continued with their marketing did survive and tended to be the first ones to revive themselves once the economics starts to recover. I'm just taking a moment to answer Riona. Yes, this webinar is being recorded exactly as you can see it, and so the Auslan interpretation will be there for the whole time. So you'll be able to watch it back again later on, and we can also arrange for a closed caption version of this webinar to be available as well, Riona. So no problem. So, making time for marketing. If you feel that you have the capacity for it, let's have a bit of a chat about it. I don't have the time to give you all of the information that I would like to give you, so I'm happy to tell you that we have a free webinar coming up, which was funded by the New South Wales Government, and it's called Crisis Marketing. It's on next Friday, the 1st of May in the afternoon. And you can follow the link that Wendy's going to pop into the chat for you, Crisis Marketing, if you're searching on Google. That's going to be a free 2-hour presentation again with Auslan interpretation and visual description, all about the different kinds of things that we can think of to help you with your marketing during this crisis. So please do register for that if you want to come along. I'm going to give you a really quick overview of some of the things that I recommend at the moment that really would be great for you to apply your attention to if you feel up to it. So the first thing is, of course, to go and make sure that your website is going to be up and running and looking great. These are all the kinds of things that people tell me that they don't have time for. Well, hopefully you might have a bit of time for them now. Website time. Is your website as lovely and modern as it could be? Is it accessible? Good question. Is it available on different kinds of platforms, on different kinds of mediums? Does everything work? Do all those links work? I don't know about you, but Creative Plus Business is going through a bit of a website overhaul at the moment because I am taking my own medicine on this front. When the economy improves, and it will, people with money are going to start looking around the landscape to see who's still surviving, who's still out there, and who has a good looking website. I really do believe that. So that's going to be my first tip. Because the thing is, marketing is always about trust. Always. Whether we're in positive or negative times, marketing is about communicating to nice people who have money that you are a trustworthy receptacle for that money or for that funding. The more you can do to demonstrate trustworthiness, the better. And having a good looking website that works is a really simple way of doing that. Most of the things that I'm about to talk about are. If you are a little bit less technological about social media than you could be, now is the time to upskill as well. So there are so many different resources available out there about upskilling in social media and digital marketing. There are two that I want to share with you, and both of them are free. They are also, in a way, both product placements, but forgive me for that. I'm only sharing them because they are free. The first one is an online e-learning platform released by Facebook called Blueprint. The URL is facebookblueprint.com, and this offers free self-paced courses which have all been created by Facebook, and the courses all look at Facebook, Instagram, and Messenger as platforms for marketing. The courses can be as basic or as complex as you need them to be. I believe they are all closed caption videos as well. It's almost all video-based learning, and I really do recommend that you go and have a look at it. I think there are about 75 courses available on Blueprint to help you navigate the world of Facebook, Instagram, and Messenger, and it's free. The other one that I want to mention is called Digital Garage. Digital Garage is a non-profit platform started by Google that delivers free digital skills training across a whole range of different kinds of areas. So you can actually tailor learning for yourself through this. It is completely free. You can even get certification if you want to. In the beginning, Garage really just focused on Google-based products like search engine optimization or analytics, but now they've broadened out into a whole range of different kinds of digital marketing learning and also non-digital. So there was one the other day that I saw about public speaking, which is a bit nutty. Unexpected, but anyway, you can go and have a look at that. Google Garage is the search term, and Wendy has put the link in the description, in the chat for you. Filmmakers amongst us and film organizations, which of course you all are, it's time to update your show reels. It's time to update your trailers. It's time to make sure that all the video content that exists out there in the world is fabulous. It's time to take down those dodgy old videos. It's time to recut things that you're a little bit embarrassed by. Now is the time to make sure that all the video content that's out there that reflects you and your creative practice or your organisation is as hot as it could possibly be. It might also be the time for you to start exploring some of those video platforms that are available to you that could potentially help you to make more money, and I'm going to talk about that a little bit more in a moment. I understand that the licensing issues on Google and YouTube can be very problematic, but do go and check out YouTube's Creator Academy if you want to find out more information about how to use YouTube for marketing purposes, how to use YouTube for income generation purposes. I'm just going to make that slide a little bit larger so you can see it in more detail. So you can see that the Creator Academy has a whole range of different options available to you about how to actually make money from your channel, how to optimize it, how to create content strategy. Once again, I will remind you that Google owns YouTube, and YouTube has some pretty tricky licensing laws about content. So do make sure that you are reading the terms and conditions associated with putting your work up on YouTube. Vimeo doesn't have the same kind of licensing problems, but it also doesn't have the ability to help you make money as easily as YouTube does. So it's really up to you to go and have a look at those two things. I know I can feel what the reaction is going to be to the next suggestion. It's time to get your LinkedIn ass in gear. It is time for you to get good at LinkedIn. I know. I can hear you. You're telling me, oh, but LinkedIn is awful and I hate it and it's so counterintuitive and it's not good for creative people. And I completely agree with you. But it is also completely full of people who work for large organizations who have money. It is full of people who are involved in the public sector. It is full of philanthropists and people who give out grants. And it is particularly full of people who are not going to lose their jobs at the moment, who might be looking for people like you to give money to. Yeah, I know. At this time, that's even more important than ever. So if you feel like your LinkedIn game is as good as it can be, well done. Congratulations, but there's always more that can be done. And we have a free webinar, which you can actually access through the link that Wendy's going to share with you, or you can find more information about it on creativeplusbusiness.com, called LinkedIn Tips for Creatives. We've created this webinar specifically because we found that LinkedIn is not terrifically great for creatives in the way that it's formatted, but you can actually fiddle around with the formatting of LinkedIn and make it work for you when you're in screen practice. So if you don't believe me, you can go and watch that webinar for free. So hi, Carolyn, we're welcoming you back. Nice to see you. So the next thing I want to mention is coffee time, which again might sound a bit strange because obviously you can't have coffee in real life. But earlier I was talking about maintaining relationships with regular, loyal, existing clients or stakeholders, people that you've previously had a good relationship with, not even just people who have given you money in some way, but anyone who's been involved in your organisation or your screen practice that's been loyal to you, supportive of you, involved with you. Now is the time to maintain that relationship. But I want to just make it really clear. I don't mean maintaining that relationship by making desperate phone calls and insisting that those people help you. This is not the time. Everyone is struggling. Everyone, even people who maybe aren't struggling as much as you, are still going through their own struggles. And constantly contacting existing clients and asking for work or trying to make desperate relationships with people is not the time. And I'm sorry if that sounds, again, condescending, but it has already happened to us. I've had a large number of phone calls and emails in the last couple of weeks from people that I haven't heard from for years who are now suddenly coming out of the woodwork and asking me for stuff. And to be honest with you, it's not great. I don't feel like that's creating a relationship. I feel like that's being fueled by desperation. And I totally understand. I totally do. But that's not what I'm suggesting when I'm talking about coffee time with clients. Check in with them. How are they doing? Are they okay? Can you support them in some way? Can you help them in some way? Maybe not for payment, but just to ensure that you can maintain a regular, loyal relationship with someone that's helped you in the past. And, you know, I think that a lot of people would appreciate that reach out or that call, because we really do need to be sticking together at the moment. And it's not just about the disparity between client and, you know, freelancer anymore. We're all in the same boat and we all have to make this work together. I'm going to stop yelling at you now. If you can afford it, now is a really good time for you to have a bit of a refresh of your brand. Even if you are freelancing or contracting, maybe you don't have a brand or a logo at the moment, is now the time to start thinking about it. The great thing is that you can also hopefully give work to a fellow creative. There are lots of designers out there who are suffering just as much as we are. They are in exactly the same boat as us. Or perhaps you could trade services. So if you don't have the money to be able to pay a designer for a new logo or a brand refresh, can you swap video services for branding services? As long as those things are of equal value, that shouldn't be a problem. And potentially now is the time for you. So also think about getting some new photos. Obviously, social distancing is hugely important. But if it's time for you to get a new headshot or to get some new photographs for your website or for your social media, now's the time to start thinking about it. And again, there are lots of photographers out there who are impacted, as we all are. And there are lots of photographers out there who are coming up with some really cool ways of being able to take photographs from a distance. So the social distancing rules don't necessarily have to stop you from getting new photographs taken or updating the photographs that you're using for your marketing. If you need any further resources about marketing in general terms, then please do go to the Creative Plus Business website. We have a page called Mondo Marketing that you can access, and we have loads of links and resources, all of which are free, that you can have a look at there. I'm just going to have a sip of my tea and make sure that we don't have any questions. So I'm just going to take a pause. We've been talking a lot of talking. We are halfway. Fantastic. I'm going to keep going. I don't need a break. Hopefully you guys are all okay as well. I can see you're all still in there, which is awesome. Are you all okay? Can someone let me know in the chat if they're okay? I haven't seen you for a while. So Margaret, lovely to see you. Thank you for that. Jackie, can we have a 5-minute coffee break, please? Jackie, of course we can. We're going to take a short break right now and we will come back again at 11:30 to continue on. Thank you so much, everybody, and we'll see you in 5 minutes. Hi, everybody. Nice to have you back again. We're ready for the next bit, so hopefully you're all here. And I'm just going to figure out how to share my screen again because I am good at technology. Okay. All right. Now we've still got a few more tips to go, and we're probably going to be going now for another half an hour or so. So thank you for hanging in there. I know it's a long session, but we do have a lot to share with you. So step number 6, I want to talk about making a schedule for new work. And again, I am specifically talking to those of you who have the capacity for this. You are feeling well and financially you are feeling okay, at least for the next couple of months, or, you know, you've got that kind of support that you need. Now is the perfect time to be starting to work on new projects. And I want to remind you again that making sure you have the capacity for new projects is really important. As I mentioned earlier, a lot of people have been feeling this pressure to be creative because we've got this fantastic vacuum in which we can make all the fabulous things happen. But if you're feeling like crap, just feel like crap for a while. You can't force your creativity to give you something that it isn't capable of giving you. I often talk to people about what I call athlete thinking. Your creativity is closely connected to your well-being, your physical and mental well-being, and it's really important for you to be minding the cause and effect between how you're feeling and what you're doing and what the impact is on your ability to be creative. I call it athlete thinking because there's a very direct cause and effect between an athlete maintaining their physical fitness and being able to be fit when they want to be. So athletes know that if they keep up their routines and if they go for a run or they do their workouts, that they will be able to call upon their fitness when it's time. But creatives are very disconnected from their own creativity sometimes. So now is the time to really think about, what are you doing to help you to feel creative? What state of mind or state of physical being do you need to be in order to be creative? Do you get really good ideas when you take the dog for a walk? Then take the dog for a walk. Write down those ideas when you're doing it. And again, I don't mean to sound condescending. That disconnection plagues a lot of us. So I just wanted to mention that in terms of making new work. If you don't feel like you're up to it, that's okay. But it's important to make sure that you are taking care of yourself creatively as well as in every other way. I would also suggest a couple of things at this point. Now is a really good time to collaborate as well. People in the screen industry have usually been pretty good with technology, but I know for myself and for most people I'm talking to, we've all become technological wizards in the last month with all of the different platforms that are available to people. Find those networking opportunities online and find ways to collaborate either with your existing collaborators or with new people, because no one in the creative industry exists in a vacuum. We all need each other to keep moving forward. And if you're finding it difficult to make creative work in isolation, which is entirely fair, get yourself out of isolation, at least in a digital and creative sense, by connecting with other people. And I'm hearing some amazing stories from our clients about people who've been putting together informal writers' rooms with their friends and colleagues, or putting together, idea development days or exciting evening salons where everybody joins in digitally to support each other. And, that's something that we did during the recession in the early 1990s. Of course, we did it in real life, but it was a fantastic way of staying connected, staying inspired, and also staying connected to people who were going to have a positive impact on your professional life once this is over. One thing that a lot of people are struggling with, though, in terms of making new work or making the time to develop new work, is putting a structure in place. That's actually been one of the most difficult aspects of this, apart from the obvious financial aspects, is how difficult people are finding it to be accountable to themselves in terms of their own time. And that is deteriorating. People in the beginning that I was talking to were feeling very inspired about creating their own structure and making a timetable and making sure they put on clothes every day. And that does seem to be deteriorating for some people. And if that's okay with you, of course it's fine. You can just wear your pajamas every day. Who cares? But it could be potentially impacting on your mental health to exist without a structure. And if it's impacting your mental health, it will be impacting on your creativity as well, in my opinion. So what I'm going to suggest is that you volunteer yourself for a self-imposed structure. It might sound odd, and a lot of people sometimes rebel against this idea, but we talk constantly with people about the Monday morning meeting. Now, the Monday morning meeting does not have to happen on a Monday or in the morning, but it's a meeting that you have with yourself at the beginning of your working week to help you work out what you want to focus your attention on this week, what you have the capacity for, what's important, what's not, and all the different things that you need to make time for. And then placing the time necessary for those different activities into your diary or your calendar. So this is not just making a to-do list and then discarding that list or freaking out about that list. It's about working out what you actually want to do or need to do in the professional week ahead of you, and then committing the time to actually doing it in your calendar, creating a timetable that you can then be accountable to. For some of you, I'm sure you're thinking, oh my God, I can't imagine anything worse, how vile, but it does tend to work. We have had a number of people who are doing it in our client roster, and they are enjoying it. But part of the reason why I mention it is because during the recession of the early 1990s, when I was first running my own production company, and I've been freelancing for about 8 years, I really struggled with the lack of structure and the lack of accountability, and my mental health really suffered as well. I was not aware of what was happening to me at the time straight away. We didn't talk about mental health issues as much back then, and there weren't the same kinds of resources that we have now. But I did struggle, and I did go and speak to a counsellor about it, and she helped me to come up with the idea for the Monday morning meeting, which really, really helped me. And it helped me so much that I still do it. I've actually been having a Monday morning meeting with myself and now with my team for just under 30 years. So I do recommend it, and I'm such a fan of it that we have a free webinar about it. So if you go to the link that Wendy is going to pop into the Dropbox for you, or if you just search webinar Monday morning meeting on Google, you will find this free webinar that you can access at any time. It's completely free, and it always will be, and it goes through a lot more details about how to structure this magical thing called the Monday morning meeting. Now, I can see that there's a question from Margaret, which I'll just read aloud. Do you have any suggestions about how to create structure for creativity when we have to balance the pressure to be responsible for homeschooling and other people's needs? Margaret, that's a really important question. And my only real answer is to try and create boundaries around these blocks of time that I'm talking about. I have 3 children. They're all grown up now, but the idea of schooling them at home whilst also trying to run my freelance business, it just would have been chaos. I'm sure you're experiencing it as well. But the word I'm going to say again is boundaries. It's going to be important for you to be really firm about not only creating those blocks of time for yourself, but also insisting that those blocks of time be respected by other people. I am going to be honest with you. When I was working from home and I had 3 small children, my children were actually better at obeying the boundaries that I set about time than my partner was, but he was trainable eventually. It's not a great answer, unfortunately, because it does require you to be firm, and it does require you to be reasonably insistent about respect, which can be a really awkward conversation to have, and can also be a hard conversation to have when people are feeling anxious and distressed. But that would be my suggestion if you're juggling a lot of different time considerations, to still try the Monday morning meeting, but add those other time considerations into your meeting agenda in addition to the other things that you need to do. When my children were small and I was trying to run my business from home, I used to have my professional Monday morning meeting, and then I would immediately have my personal Monday morning meeting, both of those things having on my own, just to make sure I was across everything that needed to happen. And another reason why I suggest it is simply because it's going to help you to slow down. I think we all need to slow down a little bit and just take our time to assess whether or not what we are doing is working and whether or not there are other ways that we could try. When we've been going through periods of anxiety and periods of uncertainty, and of course for some of you this crisis came directly on the heels of the bushfire crisis, so we've been on high alert for a long time now, and sometimes it's hard to tell the difference between what's really important, what isn't, what's a priority, what's urgent, what isn't. I certainly feel for myself that some of my abilities to understand the difference between urgent and not have become blurred. And really a good response to that is just to slow down your processes, your decision-making processes, your professional processes. Take a breath, take a moment, and just try things and see whether or not they're working. Evaluate whether or not they're working, and encourage other people to do the same if you can. I hope that answered the question, Margaret. I feel like it wasn't a great answer, but it's a start. Step number 7 is to diversify your income streams. Now, again, this is a really huge topic, and I'm not going to have time to cover it in a great amount of detail, but happily, we do have a workshop coming up, which is also supported by the New South Wales Government through Business Connect and is also completely free. It's on the 5th of May, and it's a 2-hour workshop, a practical workshop, which is going to go through all the different ways in which you can diversify your income and how to take advantage of those methods. Coming up, you are all welcome to sign up for it. For nothing, for those of you who are based in New South Wales. For those of you who are not based in New South Wales, you can email us hello@creativeplusbusiness.com. Wendy, can you put our email address in the chat again, please? Please email us and we might be able to help you out on that front. Like I said, it's free and it is supported by the state government. Excuse me. But I'm going to give you a really quick overview, just a whole bunch of things to pop into your brain to help you start thinking about ways of diversifying your income. The first one is products. Most of us in the screen industry supply services to our clients and stakeholders, but is it time for you to start thinking about products, things that you can download, things that can be monetized, and maybe even products like merchandise or physical objects that can be made and sold. Of course, some of you are thinking, no, that's not possible. I'm a film director. What are you talking about? But these are just ideas to get your brain going and thinking about how could you monetize your existing slate or your past slate of projects. How could you create digital products in particular that could be sold? Okay, 1 second. I'm just going to invite Carolyn back in. Where is she? No, Carolyn's here. Okay. All right, 1 second. Sorry, we're having some slight technical issues. All right. Carolyn, I'm going to remove you from the video and then invite you back in again, okay? Right, so get her back again, shall we? One moment, everyone. Take this time while we're just organising ourselves to ask me any questions that you might have or pop anything that you need to into the chat just while we figure out our technology. Or take this moment to have a cuppa. What a good idea. Okay, I can see Carolyn is joining us soon. I will keep an eye on that, but for now I'll just keep going, giving you a few other suggestions on things to have a think about. So we were talking about online services. Increasingly, clever, creative people like you are figuring out ways to provide our services online. And I know that can be tricky for some of you, but now is the time to start investigating those things. I can also see that we have a question, so let me just have a look. Any clues on networking opportunities, Ben? Yes, I'm going to talk in a minute about some of the opportunities that are existing on Facebook, but I got a notification just this morning about a new online networking event that's come up, or it's actually an existing networking organisation that's gone online. So I can't give you any direct clues right at this moment, but I think it would be a great idea to do some research. And if any of you who are watching us live at the moment have any suggestions about online networking opportunities, do please go and pop them in the chat so we can share those with each other. Hopefully that'll help, Ben. Okay, now, why can't we see Carolyn? Where is she? Okay, she's connecting. I can see her there. So we'll just keep going with Sean for the moment, if that's okay, while we wait for Carolyn. The next thing is to talk about, you know, that ebook that you've been wanting to write for so long. Now might be the time to start thinking about that as well. Oh, I've got a few other things in here. Sorry, I went too far. Lots of you may have an ebook in you. Maybe it's time for you to investigate that. Now that Amazon and Kindle are based here in Australia, it's a little bit easier to publish your own books. So think about that one. You can also have a bit of a think about educational offerings. For those of you who are already teaching or have taught before, now is the time to start thinking about that. And in particular, I want to just pop a thought into your mind. There are an enormous number of high school, college and university students struggling at the moment to get themselves the education that they need to help them do their work. So if you are a teacher, a lecturer, or a mentor or a tutor, there are paid opportunities out there for you to do some tutoring and to do those sorts of jobs. And it's definitely worth thinking about. More and more of those opportunities are presenting themselves at the moment because those young people really need our support. You might also be interested in subscription-based services. There might be people out there like your fans who are interested in supporting you, and there are subscription-based services for you to investigate like Patreon that could provide you with a regular, small but regular income while you are creating your work. Wendy's going to share that with us in a moment. I'm just still trying to get Carolyn to join us, so apologies for the time that that's taking. We will find her. Let's try again. Okay. All right. I can't seem to get Carolyn back on board. Let me just cancel that. Ah, she is. Uh-oh, oh no. All right, let's see if we can get her back again. 1 second, everybody. Apologies about the delays. Hey, hi Carolyn, nice to see you back again. All right, I'm going to take this opportunity just to answer a question. Jackie has asked a question. Jackie, I can see that you asked me a question about the steps to take in order to protest against the decision about quotas, and I completely understand your dismay and anger about some of the topics that are coming up, but I'm afraid this isn't the platform for it. We're just trying to share as many resources and supports as we can. There are plenty of places where you can generate the kind of support that you might need to for some of those ideas, but let's take that into the space like Facebook or within your private groups for now. I understand your dismay, I do, but this is not the platform for it. In the Dropbox, you will find a resource about expert strategy, which is another way of thinking about how you can make money. And it's about using your expertise in your field to write about your work, speak about your work, be interviewed about your work. And I'll leave that resource with you in the Dropbox. Again, if you have accessibility issues for some of the resources in the Dropbox, do let us know. I mentioned earlier the idea of collaborating. Well, perhaps now is a good time to join forces with some of the sectors that have been less adversely affected by what's going on than we are. I understand that as creative practitioners, a lot of us are existing in a bubble where everybody has been adversely affected and everybody is struggling. And yes, everybody does have their challenges around this, but from a financial point of view, not all sectors are struggling. In fact, there are some sectors who are doing exceptionally well at the moment, who have either been unaffected from an economic point of view, or their economic standing has in fact been improved by what's happening at the moment. So maybe it's time to join forces and extend your research out to make relationships with some other kinds of professional practitioners who are out there who can help you to make money. And the final tip or idea that I want to share on that front is passive income. How many different passive income possibilities are available to you? Again, a huge question that we simply can't answer right now. Oops. So I'm very happy to again report that we have a free webinar coming up next week called Passive Creative Income. Again, Wendy's going to pop the link into the chat for you, or you can simply do a Google search on Passive Creative Income on Crowdcast, and we'll be going through a lot more details in that free webinar about ways that you can diversify your income passively, which might be good for some of you. I've only got a couple of steps left because we are running close to the end of time. Please do make sure that you ask me whatever questions you can think of in the ask a question box below, because I can't see the questions that you're putting into the chat. You need to put them in the ask a question box so I can pay attention to them. That would be really helpful. Step number 8 is to stay as connected as we can to our screen community. We are going to be stronger together, whether that is in protest or in collaboration or in simply support, having a cry on each other's shoulders. I know I have definitely needed that. I'm sure you need that too. So I'm going to encourage you to make sure you're maintaining those connections, again, not just to family and friends, but also professional connections. And in particular, I feel that we're really lucky here at Creative Plus Business because we talk to creative people all day. You know, we're talking to our clients and we're talking to people in workshops. Literally hundreds of creative practitioners from all sectors are coming through our digital door at the moment. And so we're actually getting lots of tips and ideas from other sectors and from other places outside of our own industry by talking to fellow creatives all the time. So again, if you're really finding that you're in a bit of a bubble with other people who are in exactly the same situation as you, it's super important to make sure you're maintaining those connections and even seeking out creative and professional relationships with people beyond the screen industry. Some industries are suffering more than us, some are suffering less, but this is not about shared suffering, although I totally understand why we need that sometimes. This is also about gathering up ideas from as many different places that we can in order to share them and use them and help maintain our sense of community. And with that in mind, again, I'd love to get some tips from all of you. But there are a couple of really great Facebook groups that are out there at the moment. There's one that I've just put up a slide for, which is called Australian Arts Amidst COVID-19. I believe this is a private group, but it is also a very large group. And it's a place where all different kinds of creative practitioners can come together to ask questions and share ideas outside of just the screen industry. And I believe Wendy's going to pop a link for the chat to that in the chat for you, or you can simply do a search for that one. And again, there are more than just this one, but this was one of the earliest Facebook groups that popped up. There's another one called Arts Tasker, which has popped up, and again, just do a Google search on Facebook groups, Arts Tasker. Wendy will pop the link in the chat for you. It's like Air Tasker, but it's providing a helping hand for people working in the arts and entertainment industry to share their skills and job opportunities that are coming up. And I am sure there are more. Those were 2 that I found, 2 that I am actually involved in. Please, if you know of any others, pop them into the chat. I'm sure there are loads of groups and support networks out there that I am unaware of. You can pop them into the chat now and share them with everybody else. And this chat also stays visible once this webinar is complete. So you can watch the recording back at any time. You can also look back through the chat at any time. So share your resources with each other. That would be amazing. Megan is popping something in the chat about WIFT. Oh, good on you, Megan. Look at that. Love it. Yes, if you've got anything that your organisation is also helping with or providing support for, now's the time to put it in the chat. Give yourself a shout out in the chat so that other people can see you. And that leads me to step number 9, which is to keep our whole creative industry alive. Again, thinking outside of our screen bubble. It's really important to make sure that we try and help all of our fellow creatives, because we live inside a very closely connected ecosystem. You already know that. Not only is everybody in creative industry being affected, but we are closely and intimately connected with our music partners and our writing partners and our performing arts partners, and all of us live inside a complex ecosystem that's been equally affected. So there are lots of different suggestions out there for how you can support each other, whether it's through supporting each other financially in some way, finding fellow Australian creatives that maybe you can sponsor on Patreon or download the merchandise for, or pay for their workshops or their webinars. If they are being clever enough to diversify their income and you can afford it, then I think it's a great way of helping each other and supporting each other. And there are lots more ideas floating around out there about how we can do that. One place that I would like to just recommend is I Lost My Gig. I Lost My Gig was first started in the US because of South by Southwest getting cancelled. And I Lost My Gig Australia started not long after that. I think it was mostly being used initially by people working in the performing arts and live event sector, but do please go and register any gigs that you have lost as a part of this process, because it's not just about sharing this information with each other. This is absolutely vital data that the organisers of I Lost My Gig Australia are gathering up to really make a compelling case for what's happening to us across the whole of our industry. So even if you haven't lost a huge amount of work, please do go and register at ilostmygig.net.au to be able to express that, because it's super important. The current tally is sitting at $330 million worth of lost work. Those are the sorts of numbers that people take seriously. And again, if you have any other resources or networking groups or social media activities that you want to promote in the chat or share with your fellow screen industry practitioners, now is the time. There are a lot of you there. And again, this chat will remain visible once this webinar is over. I am now up to step number 10 and we are almost finished. So thank you for hanging in there for the entire 2 hours of this workshop / webinar. It's been really fantastic. Step number 10 is to hang in there. This is unbelievably hard. And I've spent a lot of time today talking about your mental and emotional well-being and making sure that you are keeping yourself safe. Hanging in there simply for the sake of continuing on relentlessly is not necessarily good for you. But hanging in there and being resilient and being optimistic about when this is going to be over and what's going to happen afterwards, I don't think that's a bad idea at all. I tend to be a pretty optimistic person, which can be very annoying. for those of you who know me, but there is hope. And there is hope because this can't last forever. And again, because I am a very old woman, I have been through this before. During the 1990s recession, it felt like that would never be over, and my organisation and personal life was adversely affected by the global financial crisis, more so than most Australian practitioners. And it also improved. Improvements are coming. So figuring out ways to keep yourself supported, sane, healthy, and being kind to yourself through the process of resilience and hanging in there, I think is really, really important. Having said that, I'd like to share a slide with you that we actually had made a long time ago by a fantastic artist called Lenny Pelling. I'm just going to make it a little bit bigger so you can fully appreciate how fabulous this slide actually is. For those of you who are joining us with a vision impairment, let me read it aloud to you. It is a picture of a roller coaster, and it's called The Creative Process, Roller Coaster of Emotions. And we have a little dude at the top of the roller coaster saying, "This is awesome." And then as he continues along the roller coaster, he says, "This is tricky." And then as he descends into the pit, he says, "This is shit." And then he gets into the bottom of the pit and he says, "I am shit." And he stays there for quite a while. And if he continues up, it says, "This might be okay." And then he gets to the very top and he says, "This is awesome." This is the roller coaster that so many of us are on. Some of us are having this on a daily basis. I think I went through the whole of that roller coaster just yesterday afternoon, which was pretty problematic. It was made for us by Lenny Pelling at Burger with a Lot, and Wendy's shared her details with you. It is also available for you to download from our Dropbox, because I think it's sometimes a really good way of keeping yourself on track. Margaret, I'm so happy you've got that on your bedside table. Quite a lot of people who've interacted with us over the years have got this. One of our clients has got this image printed out and she has it stuck to the door of her home office so that she can draw attention to where she is on the slide, and her family know that if she's in the kind of bottom part of the slide, maybe they should keep their distance, which I think is very funny. Let me give another quick shout out to Lenny and her amazing business, because she did such a good job for us. And the thing to remember about this slide, I am trying to keep it a little bit lighthearted, of course, but the thing to remember is that if you're in the bottom part of the slide, if you're in that dip, then it's a really good idea to make sure that you don't make any big decisions at that time. Thanks for joining us, Carolyn. It's really important to make sure that you just try and make all the big decisions that you need to make at the moment when you're feeling okay. Any big decisions that you need to make when you are feeling really crap, it's not going to be a good place for you. So hang in there, but make sure you're hanging in there with some self-kindness. Okay, now I am finished. That is the end of my presentation, and now is the time to ask me any questions that you might like to ask that you didn't get answered previously. Excuse me one second. Vivian has asked a question about some website development software applications which are free, simple to use, and Wendy has answered. Thanks, Wendy, for answering Vivian. We have a whole lot of resources on our Mondo marketing page about simple, free-to-use website platforms, so thanks for that. Now, I'm just going to hang in here for a little bit longer to see if there are any questions that you might want to ask me. We've got a bit of a photo credit there from Unsplash. And also just a reminder that you can access all of the resources to support this webinar on the link below, which is also there in the chat for you. While I'm waiting for questions or any final comments, once again, I want to remind you that the New South Wales government has a program called Business Connect. We are the creative industries specialists for that particular support. That is support in the form of 4 hours of completely free business advice, guidance and mentoring with creative practitioners, some of whom are experienced in the screen industry. There is absolutely no catch. You can sign up for it whenever you like. If you're struggling with the sign-up process, just email us, hello@creativeplusbusiness.com. And thank you, everybody. Thanks for all of the lovely comments. For those of you who missed the beginning, you can watch the recording. Once I end the broadcast, the recording will be available within moments. Oh, Tony, do you like my earrings? I know, they're really cute, aren't they? These are earrings by an artist called Jeff McCann. We're doing a webinar with him later on today about creative resilience, so I thought I'd give him a little product placement. Thank you, Dev. Thank you very much. It's been great to see you all. It's been fantastic to have you here. I have really enjoyed it, and I know the team at Create New South Wales and Screen New South Wales are here for you. You can see that there's been some more, there are some more webinars coming up from Screen New South Wales with some other facilitators. And thank you so much for joining me. I've really appreciated it. And I hope that we all get to see each other in person really, really soon. Okay. Thanks, everyone. Bye. Bye.